Peter Burns. Thank you, Pascal. And yes, so I don't have to do a full introduction. Yes, I was actually here on the very first night that BistroBordeaux was open. My wife and I came in, not knowing anything except that a Frenchman had opened a restaurant right next to the rather teutonically named Uber Burger. And we figured we might as well get in quickly because this wouldn't last, since we figured you'd have been annexed long before now. But Pascal has managed his own Maginot Line along this wall. And so in the spirit of that sort of victory, I thought that I would offer suggestions to the French, since they don't have the best reputation, and I find that it's really a failure of marketing. I mean, case in point, the Germans have a reputation for being warlike and mean, and this is not undeserved, but the French had Napoleon. Napoleon! Now, I don't have a lot of details about that because I didn't have to take that course in high school, but I did see Master and Commander, and I've listened to the 1812 Overture a couple of times. And my understanding from all of this is that he was kind of a dick. And almost took over Europe, and that's badass, or as the French would say, badass. And so you have this reputation, but then you go and name a dessert after him. And that's not really sending the right message. It's a mixed message. You will note, by the way, that over at Uber Burger, you cannot get a Hitler parfait. And when you're sprinkling powdered sugar on your greatest war hero, that's not sending the appropriate messaging. I know that for the French, having a pastry named after you is the highest honor. But I think you guys need to understand that in this country, when we say someone's a cream puff, that's not a compliment. Oh, he's a cream puff. He must be one hell of a guy. I know a real profiterole once. And let me see if I can explain this to you, Pascal. When we say someone is a cream puff, we mean that he's not worth, if I may translate, Jacques Merde. Anyway, I think what you guys don't get is that Americans demand clear, simple answers, no matter how complex the issues. And you guys seem to kind of do the other way around. It's all mystery and opacity. I mean, the phrase that you guys bring into, that has made the greatest transition into our language is je ne sais quoi. And how pissed are we when we find out that je ne sais quoi is another way of saying, beats the shit out of me. I mean, so basically, we think that je ne sais quoi is a thing, and then we find out that it's a thing that means that there is no thing that there should be, and it makes our head hurt. And the shrug. I mean, we've all seen the shrug, right? Very French thing to do. Now, the shrug is almost an entire part of the language. They don't teach it in the classes over here, which means that when we go over to France, we're functionally illiterate. There's a whole language of the lip and the arms going in and out and the outside. You know what it means. I have managed to boil it down to 3 general things. The shrug means, I don't know. The shrug means the universe is interesting and the fates conspire against us, no? And the shrug means go screw yourself. And the problem is, it may be hours, days, sometimes years before you figure out which one of those it was. Hey Jacques, I think Pierre told me to go screw myself. In 1998. What do you think? Sorry. Oh yeah, right, and the hiding. You're always hiding things. Resistance numbers, consonants. Take the word ooh. It's a good word. It's the one you pull out in the grad seminar to knock a guy down, right? Oh, you've considered Scorsese's mise en scène, but have you considered it in the entire It's a good word, but let's review. O-E-U-V-R-E. Those are 6 letters. And I'm getting, I don't know, 2 sounds, maybe 2.5 out of that. What are the other letters doing there? You have to understand our attention span. I'm an American. I have only so much CPU in my brain that I can take care of. And I'm using a lot of it for reality shows and who's out on American Idol. And I don't have time to understand what Belgium is. I mean, is it colony, a state? I don't know. It's your Austria, isn't it? It's that like thing that hangs off the side. It's a little shittier version of your own country that hangs over here. There's some sort of, it's like a tumor or a benign growth or something like that, right? It's like East St. Louis, right? Or no. It's like Canada, right? Because they've got 2 languages and they really care. None of us give a shit, right? It's like that, right? Okay, the other thing you need to understand is that you have a limited amount of impact you can have with us in terms of people that come over here. Because I don't know if you've noticed this, but there is an unwritten rule that ever since the beginning of mass media in the 1930s, all non-English speaking countries are allowed 1 famous person per decade. That's it. And some of your more recent choices have been a little questionable. I mean, it started well, right? The 1930s, the famous French person was Charles Boyer. He's a famous lover and all that. That's very good. And the 1940s was Charles de Gaulle, because there was the war on, and he was a badass. That's good. And in the 1950s, the famous French person was Jean-Paul Sartre. And frankly, he's kind of a drag. Then in the 1960s, I think as a compensation for Jean-Paul Sartre, you sent over Marcel Marceau. Now, Marcel Marceau is what happens when a guy from Ringling Brothers gets on a staticky transatlantic line and explains to a guy that doesn't speak English very well what a clown is. And what we found out through Marcel Marceau is the only thing that America is more frightened of than a clown is a pretentious clown. In the 1970s, Jacques Cousteau, of course. And, you know, a guy who smells like herring guts is not really going to help with the odor stereotype, okay? It's a bad move. 1980s, the B1 famous guy from France was Gerard Depardieu, who in some quarters is still considered an elaborate prank as revenge for Jerry Lewis. No, this is our greatest actor. He's also quite sexy. Really? The fat guy. The fat guy with the nose like an angry potato who didn't actually have to have a prosthetic for Cyrano de Bergerac, but decided to wear one anyway. This freaking guy. The 1990s, the one famous French guy was Jean Reno, a man that made me happy that cinema was a medium of sight and sound, but not smell. Because how many Gaulois do you think that guy chokes down every day? I mean, how many packs? Like, what's the over-under there? 3, 4, something like that? I mean, does Jean Reno wake up with a lit cigarette in his mouth? Or does he have to, like, get up at 2 in the morning and chain smoke 3 or 4 to get his nicotine levels in his blood back up to toxic levels? And then for the past 10 years, the most famous French guy in America is Johnny Depp. And that's cheating.
Thank you.